Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios of Hythe, Kent, Southeast England, just a stone's throw from the English Channel. We're going to get right into it because we're a little late, and we've been late the last few nights. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram by Srila Sanatana Goswami glorifies the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which we're reading now, in a very wonderful way. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Purāṇa, Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho, Kalidvandoditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshakshadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin, Madgudo Man Mahadana, Manistadaga Madbhagya, Mad Anandanamostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin, Atini Chuchata Kada, Hanamun Jagadachin Mam, Premna Rit Kantayokspura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we've reached the third chapter of the third canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Lord's pastimes out of Vṛndāvana. Uddhava is continuing in ecstasy to recount, remember Sri Krishna's pastimes while speaking to Vidura. We begin with text 19 tonight. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwaraka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. Purport. While Maharaj Yudhishthira was the emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwaraka and was known as Dwarakadish. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principles of the Vedic injunctions, because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life, according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is the real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such knowledge, detachment, and custom, the The so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely, as He willed, yet by His practical example, He taught not to lead a life which goes against the principles of detachment and knowledge. Attainment of knowledge and detachment, as very elaborately discussed in Sankhya philosophy, is the real perfection of life. Knowledge means to know that the mission of the human form of life is to end all the miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessities in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of the spirit soul is the human mission. Text 20. Text 20. He was there in his transcendental body, the residence of the goddess of fortune, with his usual gentle and sweetly smiling face, his nectarian words, and his flawless character. Krishna. Purport. In the previous verse, in the previous verse, it is described that Lord Krishna, being situated in the truths of Sankhya philosophy, is detached from all kinds of matter. In the present verse, it is described that he is the residence of the goddess of fortune. These two things are not at all contradictory. Lord Krishna is detached from the variegatedness of the inferior nature, but he is eternal, blissful, but he is in eternal, blissful enjoyment of the spiritual nature, or his internal potency. One who has a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand this distinction between the external and the internal potencies. In the Bhagavad Gita, the internal potency is described as the Para Prakriti. In the Vishnu Purāṇa also, the internal potency of Vishnu is described as Para Shakti. The Lord is never detached from the association of Para Shakti. This Para Shakti and her manifestations are described in the Brahma Samhita 537 as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bhi. The Lord is eternally joyful and cognizant in the taste derived from such transcendental bliss. Negation of the variegatedness of the inferior energy does not necessitate negation of the positive, transcendental bliss of the spiritual world. Therefore, the Lord's gentleness, His smile, His character, and everything related to Him are all transcendental. Such manifestations of the internal potency are the reality, of which the material shadow is only a temporary representation from which everyone, with proper knowledge, must be detached. Text 21. The Lord enjoyed His pastimes, both in this world and in other worlds, higher planets, specifically in the association of the Yadu dynasty. At leisure hours, offered by night, He enjoyed the friendship of conjugal love with women. Purport. The Lord enjoyed in this world with his pure devotees. Although he is the personality of Godhead and is transcendental to all material attachment, he nevertheless exhibited much attachment for his pure devotees on the earth, as well as for the demigods who engage in his service in the heavenly planets as powerful, delegated directors in the management of all material activities. He displayed special attachment for his family members, the Yadus, as well as for his 16,000 wives, who had the opportunity to meet him in the leisure hours of night. All these attachments of the Lord are manifestations of his internal potency, of which the external potency is only a shadow representation. In the Skanda Purāṇa, Prabhas Kanda, in the topics discussed between Lord Shiva and Gauri, there is confirmation of the manifestation of Lord Krishna's internal potency. There is mention of the Lord's meeting with 16,000 cowherd damsels, although he is the Hamsa, transcendental supersoul, and maintainer of all living entities. The 16,000 cowherd damsels are a display of 16 varieties of internal potency. This will be more elaborately explained in the 10th canto. It is said there that Lord Krishna is like the moon, and the cowherd damsels are like the stars around the moon. Text 22. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. Purport. Even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years, just to teach others how one should live in householder life. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains the word samajayata means, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that the word samajayata means fully exhibited. In all his activities while present on earth, the Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental cowherd damsels, but the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of material nature. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and other goddesses of fortune, as described in the Brahma Samhita 5.29, Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevyamanam. Text 23. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee. I misread that. No, I didn't. Anyway, I'll read it again. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus his sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental sense activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord by rendering transcendental service. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, No one but a devotee can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is herein corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others, who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men, and demigods within the purview of the material universe is controlled by the supernatural force called the Prakriti, or Daivi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. That is, with any sense, he can perform the activities of the other senses. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing and can perform the act of sex simply by seeing. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such sense activities in his conditional life. But simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yash jasmi tatpataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. Text 24. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, and thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. Purport. The associates of the Lord who were playing the part of princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they could offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced to anger by any of the sporting activities of the princes born in the holy dynasties of Yadu or Bhoja, wherein the Lord himself appeared as a descendant. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princes were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could never be vanquished by any act of material nature, were subjected to the reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. One should therefore take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee of the Lord. Text 25. A few months passed, and then, bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andaka, who were incarnations of demigods, went to Prabhas, while those who were eternal devotees of the Lord did not leave, but remained in Dwarka. 26. After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respects to the forefathers, demigods and great sages, and thus satisfied them. They gave cows to the brahmanas in royal charity. Purport. Amongst the devotees of the Lord, there are several divisions, mainly Nitya Siddhas and Sadhana Siddhas. The Nitya-Siddha devotees never fall down to the region of the material atmosphere, even though they sometimes come onto the material plane to execute the mission of the Lord. The Sadhana-Siddha devotees are chosen from the conditioned souls. Out of these sadhana devotees, there are mixed and pure devotees. The mixed devotees are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities and are habituated to philosophical speculation. The pure devotees are free from all these mixtures and are completely absorbed in the service of the Lord, regardless of how and where they are situated. Pure devotees of the Lord are not enthusiastic to put aside their service to the Lord in order to go to visit holy places of pilgrimage. A great devotee of the Lord in modern times, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, has sung like this: "To visit holy places of pilgrimage is another bewilderment of the mind, because devotional service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection." For pure devotees of the Lord, who are completely satisfied with the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is hardly any necessity to visit the various places of pilgrimage. But those who are not so advanced have the prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the rituals. The part of the princely order of the Yadu dynasty who went to Prabhas performed all duties to be done in a place of pilgrimage and offered their pious actions to their forefathers and others. As a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, great sages, other living entities, people in general, forefathers, and so on, for various contributions received from them. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. The Yadus who went to the Prabhas pilgrimage site performed their duties by distributing land, gold, and well-nourished cows in royal charity, as described in the following verse. Text 27. The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold, gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin seats, blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for maintenance. Purport. All these charities were meant for the Brahmanas, whose lives were devoted entirely to the welfare of society, both spiritually and materially. The Brahmanas were not giving their services as paid servants, but the society provided them with all necessities. It was arranged for some of the Brahmanas who were in difficulty for marriage to be given girls. The Brahmanas, therefore, had no economic problems. The Kshatriya kings and rich mercantile men would provide them with all that they needed, and in exchange, the Brahmanas were completely devoted to the elevation of society. That was the way of social cooperation between the different castes. When the Brahmana class or caste gradually became easygoing, being fed by the society, although they had no Brahminical qualifications, they degraded themselves into Brahmabandhus, or disqualified Brahmanas, and thus other members of society also gradually fell down from the social standard of progressive life. As described in the Bhagavad Gita, the caste system is the creation of the Lord and is arranged according to the quality of work rendered to society and not in terms of birthright, as falsely claimed in the present degraded society. Text 28. Thereafter, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead, and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the brahmanas. Purport. The behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhas was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. The perfection of human life is attained by following three principles of civilization: protecting the cows, maintaining the Brahminical culture, and above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life. The perfection of human life is to be elevated to the spiritual world, where there is no birth, no death, no disease, and no old age. That is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material advancement and so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuff which is not first offered to the personality of Godhead. Foodstuff offered to the Lord is accepted by the devotees as the mercy of the Lord. After all, the Lord supplies all kinds of foodstuffs, both to the human being and to other animals. A human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, and so on, the prime necessities of life, are supplied for mankind by the Lord. And such foodstuffs cannot be manufactured by any scientist or materialist in a laboratory or factory established by human effort. The intelligent class of men are called Brahmanas, and those who have realized the absolute truth in his supreme personal feature are called Vaishnavas. But both of them accept foodstuffs which are the remnants of sacrifice. Sacrifice is ultimately meant to satisfy the Yajna-purusha, Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is said that one who accepts foodstuffs, in the Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is said that one who accepts foodstuffs that are the remnants of sacrifice is freed from all sinful reactions, and that one who cooks foodstuffs only for maintenance of his body takes in all kinds of sins, which lead only to suffering. The foodstuffs prepared by the Yadus at the Prabhas pilgrimage site to offer to the bona fide Brahmanas were all offered to the personality of Godhead, Vishnu. The Yadus offered their sincere obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. The Yadus, or any enlightened family in Vedic culture, are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of service between the different divisions of the social orders. The word udurasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by the combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. All such preparations are in the mode of goodness and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9.26, the Lord accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruits, flowers, leaves, and liquids, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Devotional service is the only criterion for a bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that He positively eats such foodstuffs offered by the devotees. So judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained, civilized persons, and their being cursed by the Brahmana sages was only by the desire of the Lord. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly with the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, third chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Lord's Pastimes Out of Vṛndāvana. So, Hare Krishna. All glories to Lord Sri Krishna and Lord Balaram and all of his eternal associates, especially in this case, the Dwarkavasis and the demigods who came to assist Sri Krishna in his mission on the earth. Hare Krishna. So, it's almost 7:55, believe it or not. That was more than a half-hour reading. So we're going to stop here, and that's a good stopping place because tomorrow Vidura will approach Maitreya. And we will just sit here and wait for the reflections of the attending Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare.
First is from Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Gopakanya Devi Dasi.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and all assembled devotees.
Jai, thank you very much for your regular attendance and your acutely tuned ears. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
She says, Jai Guru Maharaj, bring on the nectar.
Just a second. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Sudevi Dasi says,
yes, Sudevi Dasi, Hare Krishna to you too. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
This is from Minal. Minal?
Minal. We heard from him yesterday. Yes, Minal.
Hare Krishna Maharaj and all assembled devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
And from Anandamurti Devi Dasi.
Yes, Anandamurti Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna.
Dear Guru Maharaj and all assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, all glories to His divine grace.
Thank you so much for today's readings of Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It was interesting, wasn't it, that in this description, it didn't actually describe, although it does later in the Bhagavatam, what actually happened as a result of that curse, the details. Oh no, I'm sorry. It will in the next chapter. Sorry. It will in the next chapter. But it's interesting how he arranged it, the way he arranged it, to have the princes misbehave mocking the brahmanas, right? Very interesting. Okay, we have some more reflections.
Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati Manjari.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for reading and uplifting my consciousness.
Hare Krishna. Well, it's Krishna that's uplifting your consciousness. The incarnation of Krishna in the form of his Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Haribol, but thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, we're having a short reading tonight. It looks like the reflectors didn't show up tonight, but it's okay. We thank you all for your attendance. Wait, we have something coming in?
From Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
She says, I have been catching up with the readings of yesterday and the day before, and I found it interesting that Uddhava did not immediately tell Vidura about the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty, because the devotees do not like to hear about the disappearance of the Lord.
Yes, that's right. Generally, we don't like to talk about that. If somebody comes and kind of challenges or doubts or whatever, then we will discuss it threadbare, and it is discussed in the Bhagavatam. But generally, devotees aren't so enthusiastic to hear about the disappearance of the Lord. Just as, on disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, many years I was unable to attend that, that ceremony, because I just felt too emotional and too, I needed to just be with Prabhupada and listen and hear about him. It was too much to be in social circumstances. So, it's like that. Even though Prabhupada told us that his disappearance day and the appearance days, there were no difference, just like the rising and the setting of the sun, still, he also said that when the spiritual master departs, the devotee should cry and feel intense separation. But also, frankly, reading Srila Prabhupada's books like we're doing every single day and associating with him through his purports, it's clear as a bell that he's right there with us. One time Srila Prabhupada was driving back to Mayapur, and it happened to be on the day of the appearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada, because the samadhi of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is just down the road from Mayapur. And so when Prabhupada passed that place where the samadhi was, he had the driver slow the car and he offered his respects, and then they went on to Mayapur. So there was a brahmachari sitting on the side of the road, and he noted what Prabhupada did, and he went to the mat, the head of the mat, the Gaudiya mat, and he mentioned to him that Prabhupada did that, and the word came around that why didn't Prabhupada come in and pay obeisances in the samadhi, and it was disrespectful. So then, the next day, the word got to Prabhupada. We didn't need an internet in those days. The word got back to Prabhupada, what that brahmachari said and what the mat leader said, and Prabhupada laughed. And he said, they can't understand that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, was sitting in the car with me, right next to me. So, and he went on to elaborate how that he feels always in the presence of his spiritual master. So I have to admit that when we read Prabhupada's books like this together, we feel Srila Prabhupada's presence so tangibly, so palpably, that it eases the feeling of separation. Hare Krishna. I can't feel separation from Prabhupada when we have his, full thoughts in these books. Hare Krishna. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Wait, we've got something more.
From Shantarupa.
Shantarupa from Wales. Hare Krishna.
She says the Welsh Yatra is traveling to New Vṛndāvana early tomorrow morning for the next 5 days.
I see.
Hence the silence.
I see. I got it. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki... Whoops. Somebody else.
Subra Rajagopal.
Oh, Subrao. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you for sharing your realization and reflections on the disappearance of great saints. And one more.
One more.
From Anandamurti Devidasi.
Yes, Anandamurti.
She says, Jai, that is why we feel Srila Prabhupada's mercy from this reading.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. So see you tomorrow night, same place, same time, same topic as the unfolding of Krishna's pastimes, and we'll continue. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol.